Too hot for TV.
Welcome back to Doctor Who Too Hot for TV. We are the podcast that looks at all things Doctor Who Extended Universe. Today, I'm joined by someone who is not a podcaster, but is a regular listener and probably a regular face on Twitter, but he's not going by his Twitter handle today. So I'm joined by Liam. Hello, Liam. How are you?
I'm very delighted to be here, yes. You can introduce me as the number one David Burton stan.
The number one David Burton stan and the Dennis Pennis of Doctor Who autograph hunting.
Both accusations correct. For those listeners that are slightly concerned about that, David Burton stan is the actual name after the Doctor. It's not a civil county in Romania. So, just wanted to clear that up from the outset.
Brilliant. Why would you be the Dennis Pennis of Doctor Who?
I have been known since I was knee-high to a grasshopper to irritate a vast array of people who have been affiliated with Doctor Who in various forms, with a pen and armed with that and nothing more than an incredibly large amount of nonchalance and an inherent cheekiness. So yeah, it's been quite a journey. I've encountered some people over the years that there've been some interesting stories. My autobiography's on draft 4. So that's all in the retirement fund.
And what's the most obscure bit of Doctor Who merch you've got signed by the most obscure person?
Well, I think you're leaning towards Dylan for one of the ones that one of the people, a name that probably would pass unfamiliar to most. So, and it ties in with what we're going to talk about today. So, a small, lesser known film director who was he's been known to chase sharks, trucks, and kind of revive long dead crustacean and prehistoric creatures. So Mr. Steven Spielberg, named him to a few people who, most people if they met him would be delighted, shocked, appalled. Would go up to him and say, "Oh, I loved your Close Encounters, or your Jaws, or your, or your even The Colour Purple." And I remember meeting Steven. I have asked the guy behind the bar to get us a dustpan, so if I name drop, we're not going to be kind of drowning in a sea of it by the end. So yeah, Steven Spielberg, I remember meeting Steven. He was promoting a film called The Post with Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, and long, very dull story short, so I was working to kind of meet Steven on that. Anyway, so when I saw him, and he was like, "Oh, very nice to meet you," usual chit-chat, da-da-da-da. And I said, and I had Close Encounters and a Jurassic Park. And I said, "Oh, would you mind doing this?" And so I pulled out the first page of a document that is known to many Doctor Who fans as what's called the Leakley Bible, which was the unofficial pitch/document that Mr. Philip Siegel curated in 1994 for the ill-fated attempt to revive Doctor Who for the transatlantic market, which turned out to be the Paul McGann film. So I remember, and Stephen said, "What's this?" I said, "Well," and it had the seal from the Deadly Assassin on the front. For those of you that have seen it, and I said, "The Doctor Who?" He said, "Well, I never did Doctor Who." I said, "No, Stephen, but you were involved in a pitch and you came close." And unfortunately, when it comes to Doctor Who fandom, that's close enough for you to be burnt by affiliation, to be pestered to sign the document, which he then duly did. And then he said to me, "Oh, well, Liam, I've never done one of these before." And I said, "Well, could you put number 1 on there?" And then he said, "Don't be fucking cheeky." And then that was the end of that encounter, or that close encounter, you might say.
Amazing. Well, I mean, that leans quite nicely into what we're doing today. So we're going to do a couple of different bits of wilderness years, ephemera, and we're going to start off with the two attempts that were, or the two pitches that
Yeah.
are in the Nth Doctor, that were basically trying to reboot Doctor Who
Yeah, that was it.
across the ocean in America. And then there's a couple of little appendices to that from
Little
none of-
treats we've got for
from
you.
none other than Mr. Jean-Marc Leffissier.
That's it, yeah.
And then a few more bits and bobs after that.
And a
But-
Scouser.
Yeah, and a Scouse.
And a Scouse, the obligatory Scouser.
Well, we've got two Scousers, haven't we? We've
Well,
got Paul
Jesus,
McGann,
yeah, we have,
and we've
yeah.
got Cilla Black.
We have,
But,
yeah. Only one of them had a wig in Canada. Although that's probably up for debate.
And just for everybody listening,
Yeah.
we are doing this live from the BFI.
The ancestral home of Doctor Who
Yeah.
screenings, yeah.
But we're not here on a Doctor Who day, are we?
No,
So-
no. We've arrived for the premiere of Shooty's last season, but unfortunately we're 3.5 years early, so we've had to make do with Calendar Girls instead.
It's one of these weird things, because I come here for meetings quite often,
Sure.
and it's this weird thing of like, you come here on a Saturday about
Yeah.
twice a year, and
Yeah.
it's full of Doctor Who nerds, and then
Yeah.
you come here and it's just normal people. There's
Yeah,
people-
normal. Who knew? Who are
Yeah.
they? What are they?
Normal people,
Yeah.
attractive people,
Yeah.
people who don't even know what a leaky Bible is.
No, I saw somebody actually who didn't have either a Lavazzi scarf or a prin saying "I'm a Pridonian, ask me how." I was quite appalled.
Not us though. We're both dressed up as Paul
Oh yeah,
McGann,
yeah.
as we dress in our
Well, you can speak for yourself. I've come in Daphne Ashbrook's ball gown, but I'll let the listeners imagine that.
And very fetching you look.
Bless
too.
you. Yeah, my dad Calatarge wins awards.
So, before we jump into things, I have to ask you what I ask all my first
Yeah,
time
yeah,
guests.
go for it.
How did you become a Doctor Who fan?
Well, for those of you, it reminds me of that space documentary which is called Skip to the End. So for those of you who want to skip over my biography, you can buy my autobiography later. But so you know Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z. I like to consider myself a child of Generation Allen, and by that I basically mean those youngsters that were traumatized in the early 90s with the 7 faces of Doctor Who as it was then. So we were given a treat of a different story, actually 2 from John Pertwee, so I presume his residuals went up, which knowing John he would have had no issue with. But we had a story from each Doctor, and it was interesting because it was actually pretty much the best of the run. So, you know, I mean, I can't remember what I was doing, probably having a life. I missed the
last time, huh?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I've looked for it in the missing persons section of Heathrow ever since. So I missed the Time Meddler and the Mind Robber, which I've paid pittance for many times. And I came in at the Demons, which was, I think, the first time they'd shown the colorized version of the Demons on
it was.
any time since 1971. And I loved that. I mean, Pertwee, I'm going to spoil this for you guys. Pertwee's not my favourite Doctor. I would say he's solidly mid.
Me too.
He's like the Chicago Bulls. He's solidly mid. I should get that on a T-shirt. But there'll be a lot of people that are turning off now. But but I love the Demons. I think the Demons is great. I mean, the Demons plays like... I mean, I've always loved M.R. James and Chris Carter's early X-Files and... you know, Rod Serling stuff. I love all that kind of supernatural kind of milieu, and the Demons fit really well into that. So I loved it, which is weird because it's very atypical of most of the rest of Doctor Who's canon,
including the Pertwee era.
including the Pertwee era. Yeah, it sticks out like a stone sore thumb, a Bach thumb, and you know then, and for those of you that probably remember that, you know then we had Genesis of the Daleks. The Caves of Androzani, Revelation, which, you know, I don't mind Revelation. Clive Swift's wig saved that for me. But I was like, wow. And as a 7-year-old child, I'll admit I thought it was natural hair, which my late father never forgave me for. And then Battlefield, and I love Battlefield, you know, that gets hated on, but weirdly, you look at that and it reaches forward towards what they were doing in 2005. You know, it's kind of taking mythic ethoses and, you know, legends, and
might even be a bit more of what we're leading into in 2024.
Absolutely. If we're to see, you know, this, I don't know what the sphere of time opens up with this, and future listeners might be laughing at us, but yeah, you know, if you can have a celebrity historical with the Beatles, you can certainly have a celebrity historical with King Arthur. So yeah, that was it. I was treated with that, and so then I did about 9 paper rounds. I was growing up in Dublin at the time, And so my solution to the ever vertiginous height of buying Doctor Who VHSs was just to take on more and more paper rounds.
Fair.
I think at one point I'd stolen the paper round of everybody on the road, and that just about gave me enough money to buy the Twin Dilemma.
Excellent.
Which was not a choice I regretted at all in the slightest, he says.
From Woolworths, right? It was a Woolworths exclusive.
Woolworths, absolutely, yeah. And then I harangued the poor chap on the video counter to buy me a copy of, I say buy, he just gave it to me and pulled it off the wall, a copy of the He's Back and It's About Time McGann poster, which wow. God knows where that is now, because it'd probably fetch a pretty penny, but... Yeah, I got that off the wall, the VHS poster. So
excellent. So this was all at a time, while little known to you, there was a lot going on in America.
Yeah, absolutely. Across the pond, there were machinations afoot with big old Stevie.
but more of Stevie later.
Yeah.
So what's your relationship like with spin-off media? When did you first find it? Are you into it, or are you just strictly TV?
No, I love the kind of the dusty, relic-y, dark corners of Who that. You know, that very few people dare to touch, apart from your good self. You know, you're like the fucking curator of the under galleries. You're the undertaker of the under galleries. But yeah, so I love the the VHSs, the wilderness years, because I didn't really have a contemporaneous Doctor, apart from a one night tryst in '96. Yeah. I was just a slut to all of them, and so for me, anything. But you got to bear in mind, for those of people who probably are, of our similar ilk to ourselves, the 1990s was great because Doctor Who was just this forgotten thing. It was on a phone card, or it was on
those phone cards. Are dreadful.
You know what? It was great. It was great. Just taking my prized copy of an Aztecs phone card to a Dublin phone booth and the sweet smell of urine to see how much your taxer could get for me.
Do you know, I remember when I own those phone cards now.
Do you really? Oh, wow.
I bought them off eBay.
I've not gone that deep.
They're terrible. When I bought them, I did a whole tweet about how terrible they are.
Right, okay. It was a thread?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But I remember when they were about at the time and being like, the phone box is obviously still being a thing, being like dicking around with my mates, and whenever we go past a phone box, there used to be like a little thing where you put your used phone card,
and
I'd always have a look to see if there was
anyone in there.
But nobody that's buying a Doctor Who phone card is actually using it.
No, of course
I bet if I found somewhere I could use the phone cards I've got, they'd all have 20 quid on it.
I've got a vision now of you ringing up like Mistress Sin and saying, like, I don't want your services, but do you have a spare Francios? Go away, that's the 6th time this week.
So, you're a fan of all things wilderness, spin-off,
extended VAs.
Excellent. So, we had a chat about what we might cover, and you wanted to go deep.
Deep, yeah. Deeper than Dracula's underpants, yeah.
So, the first thing we're going to look at is Doctor Who, Fathers and Brothers. Written by John Leakley. So we're not doing like a news at the time thing, because there's not really a full timeline for this. It never happened.
No.
And the only thing we could really do is the Nth Doctor's release date, which doesn't make sense.
No.
It's just straight into Doctor Who, Fathers and Brothers by John Leakley.
Too hot for TV.
In the midst of a Dalek attack on Gallifrey, Cardinal Barusa dies, allowing his grandson, the Master, to become the president of the Time Lords. The Master's half-human, half-brother, the Doctor, flees in his TARDIS, which now houses Barusa's spirit. Searching for his long-lost father Ulysses, the Doctor travels to London during the Second World War, where he meets an American WAC, Lizzie Travis. Together, the Doctor and Lizzie travel back to ancient Egypt to find Ulysses, only to be attacked by cybernetic marauders called the Cybes. Ulysses is revealed to be a dead pharaoh, but he regenerates and draws the Cybes away. The TARDIS is summoned back to Gallifrey, where a suspiciously friendly Master sends the Doctor and Lizzie to Scarroad to prevent Davros creating the Daleks. In the process, the Master takes control of the Dalek army and Davros is killed. But the Doctor destroys the Dalek incubators. The Doctor escapes and returns Lizzie to Earth, then heads off to continue in his search for Ulysses. Thanks to ShannonSullivan.com for this synopsis.
Too hot for TV.
So, I'm assuming you have, like me, you picked up this book.
Oh God, yeah, at the time.
Yeah, at the time,
Yeah.
and devoured it.
I'm staring at my copy now in the beer foyer with its yellow pages and remarkably intact spine, which I'm not. I could say it's because I've treated it really well over the years, but
Yours is in much better state than mine.
This is like the Great British Bake Off, but of Nth Doctor. So yeah. Yours is in. Yeah, yours is.
Mine's well thumbed.
Yeah. Mine's a Harley Street to your Fitzrovia.
So can you remember discovering all of these pictures really for the first
time? So shout out to both Jean-Marc Lofficier's Nth Doctor and Gary Russell's superb regeneration. That's not a euphemism, it's just a book he wrote. With Phil Siegel, and I love that. I love both those books equally, and they go into forensic depth on the pitches, and the long journey that it took, and also I think was it Ed Stradlin's 7-year Hitch documentary on the McGann DVD. That's great if anybody hasn't seen that. That really kind of takes you from the end of principal photography on Ghostlight all the way to One Torrid Night in '96.
Yeah,
but absolutely, totally familiar with them, and I was fascinated, Dylan. Absolutely fascinated by, what literally amounts to a cauldron of just grabbing iconography and bits from 26 years and just shoving it into a melting pot.
Yeah, and just going, we'll take this bit, we'll change this bit, we'll do that. Obviously, the big pitch before this was the movie that was known as Last of the Time Lords and various other things, which we've covered on this podcast before. So we're strictly sort of doing the Amblin ones.
We're only Amblin only. Yeah.
Yes, we're rambling on
we're Ramblin Amblin. Oh shit, that's your title. There you go.
Now, it was only this time around that I realised that this pitch, and indeed the next one we're going to cover, Time of My Life, were actually meant to be pilots, much like the TV
they weren't movies of the week, they were pilots.
In my mind, they were, to be honest, in my mind, I thought they were cinema movies.
Yeah.
Because they're quite big in scale.
And they would have cost a pretty penny. You wouldn't have got away with doing this on 2 episodes of Home and Away's budget. No. This was some serious shit, Even Ray Meagher's salary for Alf Stewart wouldn't have afforded this.
So what's... listeners will have heard the synopsis, but what's the vibe of this first pitch?
So Fathers and Brothers is very much... it's very much... I would say it's a game of two halves. So the first half is very much a political thriller with action set pieces. So it's set on a Gallifrey that... For those listeners that are familiar with the Five Doctors and Arc of Infinity and stuff like that, this Gallifrey's got more in common with Aaron Sorkin's West Wing. It's very incestuous. It's very Caligula. It's very I, Claudius, as we'll talk about with family relations a bit later. But that wasn't me, by the way. It was very much... it's an Aaron Sorkin kind of a dialogue, and it all deals with political machinations. It deals with intrigue and skullduggery and cloak and dagger, and it's about basically two brothers who are vying in their own way, one who wants the term and one who doesn't, for the most prestigious office in the land. And it's a family thriller. It's very much reliant on those Greek myths. Which I loved all that shit as a kid. I was always loved history, loved the Aztecs, loved ancient Egypt, all that stuff. So for me, this was great. And again, the very clever thing that Leakley does is that he marries all of this weird 26 arcane iconography and obscure stuff, with relatable myths and legends. And I like that. And then the second half is basically just a retread of Genesis of the Daleks with some extra mad bits in Egypt thrown in, which is an interesting mix.
And a little bit of London World War II, right?
A little bit of London World War II. I was trying to go through the pitch and work out where Peter Miles could have worked his way in there.
But we have to pop off to World War II to pick up the young, plucky British side.
We do, who apparently has got a fiancée who's directly connected to Winston Churchill, as we all were in 1944, especially if you were Nicholas Lyndhurst and just walked down a street and saw it.
It's an interesting... So we should say this is a reboot for Doctor Who. This is not trying to fit it into
No,
the
it's not.
continuity.
There's no canon for this.
This is a brand new First Doctor. I mean, I guess there's a world where you could go, this is the First Doctor we know, but it involves a lot of memory erasing and stuff
absolutely,
like that.
absolutely.
But perhaps we'll get on to the continuity of it all when we look at Jean-Marc Lefissier's pictures.
The Bible Part 2, yeah.
So what struck me is that this treats Doctor Who very much as Doctor Who is not a question. It is the title of a show, and in many ways it's a mission statement. So we get the origin story. There is no mystery to the character.
No, that's it.
The mystery instead is his quest to learn more about his family.
This is the journey. There's a great book by a photojournalist who was brutally murdered, called Dan Eldon, and it's called The Journey is the Destination.
Right.
And that really is the underpins. It's about the journey. It's about the Doctor's journey to rediscover themselves, who they are, what they want, and where they fit in a universe they don't understand.
So it's big on Time Lord lore.
Oh, God,
it's big on myths, and obviously we learn about the Doctor's family, as we said, and Barusa says, until we perfected time travel, many of our earlier explorers were lost. My own son, Ulysses, never returned. He had a second child while exploring the blue planet Earth by a woman of that world. You are that blue-eyed child. When your mother died, your father sent you back to Gallifrey to be raised amongst his own people. So it is building a mythology for the character, but it's mythology we're aware of. So he's got to go find his mom and his dad, and that's how we end up in Egypt.
Ultimately. Absolutely.
But it really treats the Time Lords as these sort of godlike. It sort of takes the godlike thing of the war games, but then throws in the bureaucracy of the Deadly Assassin.
Oh, it's big on that. It marries the both of them. There's some good stuff in there. I mean, actually, you talk about that. There's a passage that where we first meet this uncanonized Doctor.
Yeah.
He is searching, as we all do, when we're coming back from the pub, for the scrolls of Rassilon.
Yes.
And it's interesting. So if you have YouTube, I'm sure you guys do, so you can actually watch a brief clip, because this was Paul McGann's casting scene with a casting duo called Roz and Joan Hubbard, and he actually read this scene of the Doctor speaking to Barusa, and you can find Paul taking direction, and he's developing that kind of slightly earnest, verbally dexterous kind of Doctor that we're familiar with from the movie, but it's delivering this very kind of intimate family speech. And there's a bit here, and it just kind of struck me, and again it's very 2024. We talk about politics as well, which I won't get onto. And he says, "These are the words of Rassilon, father of Gallifrey, first Time Lord. I apologize for my Paul McGann accent. He has written and foretold that whoever finds these scrolls should be the one to lead the people of Gallifrey out of the time of darkness. Following the path of the Spirit Guide, the new leader shall heal the planet, defending it from its enemies." Well, that's just like, you look at that, that's a mixture of a Rishi Sunak mission statement and an Orwellian kind of like Cheops mythology. I just thought it was great,
It's doing that thing of, I mean, the New Adventures did the other, but like a lot of big sci-fi things like Dune and things like that need to have the one. Weirdly, I was reading the follow-up to Terry Nation's Survivors novel.
Oh, okay, cool.
And even in that, they turn Peter Grant into this mythical the one.
Oh, really?
Save humanity.
I've never been the one. I think I must have missed the boat. I'm the two.
Yeah, I'm 2, 3, 4, anything like
I've been a number 2 for many years.
The Time Lords are played very much as they're described as looking almost human, but not.
Yeah, there's something off about them.
Yeah,
which now in like mid-1990s Canadian budgetary restrictions probably would have meant that they had different contact lids or a slight silver sheen to their forehead.
I'm getting a little bit like Vulcan.
Probably that. Maybe some slight prosthetics or something like that. Yeah, they might have gone down that route. But it's really interesting. They're, as you say, Dylan, they're very much set up as removed and observers. So it kind of ties back into that depiction of the Time Lords.
And it's interesting that our in here is the Doctor.
We go straight in on it. We don't. There's no setup. You look at what Russell did. And we start with a 19-year-old girl who's late for work, getting out of bed and hasn't had her breakfast. This, we start with a planet with 2 moons and a load of old men wandering around on obelisks. So it's a very strange beginning.
And like if you did the film where you reversed it and ended up at the end, you'd almost go, oh, this is more recognisable. But also it feels Hollywood, it feels American. It feels like this is how you launch a franchise like this. in the States in 1995
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever it is. Because, and I think you would have to see a huge change in the way media portrays science fiction stories and characters for us to ever have an in like this again in whatever reboot, because Doctor Who reboots itself all the time.
Pretty much every 3 to 4 years. Yeah.
But like the idea we'd ever start, I mean, I can't think of any new series one that's sort of reboot that starts on an alien planet, really.
No, I can't. The only time I can ever think that I kind of a Leakley-esque beginning to a series would probably be, there are elements of this that are very similar thematically to The Magician's Apprentice.
Yeah.
Because you're starting on Skaro with a battlefield and and a shitload of continuity, which is an interesting narrative choice. It's not my favourite type of Doctor Who.
But it takes it 9 seasons to do it.
It takes it 9 seasons to do that, yeah. You've got to get through a certain amount of Michael McIntyre's The Wheel before you've earned yourself the ability to go into a minefield of hands.
Yeah, and then be on Skaro with every Dalek ever.
Yeah.
But, what a time to be alive.
I'm sure Ben Aranovich was very pleased. He had his special weapons dusted out again.
So let's talk a bit about John Leakley. So he was a writer and producer essentially, and at this time he'd done a few films: The Blue and the Grey, In the Company of Darkness, Knight Rider 2010, She Fought Alone, and The Omen, which I'm assuming was a remake.
She Fought Alone was with the amazing Tiffany Amber Thiessen, I believe, who was responsible for many misspent days after watching Saved by the Bell when I was a young man. Years of my life I lost to that woman. But we digress.
Is it a competent script?
It works as a pilot for a series. Thematically, it's got a lot of in common. I mean, we're looking at 1994 and 1995. So we're looking at the type of sci-fi that was coming out of the States at that time. Tracy Torme's Sliders.
Yeah.
We're looking at Sequest DSV. We're looking at the very short-lived VR5 with Laurie Singer.
Oh my god.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah, that is a deep cut.
That's a fucking deep cut.
Are we at Space and Above and Beyond yet, or is that a bit
Oh, yeah, I think that's not... Well, that would have been cooking at this time.
Yeah.
Because that was just about the time Morgan and Wong had their hissy fit on the X-Files and left. But yeah, this was... So if you look at what was being done at the time, yeah, it works. I don't think... It's not how I would reintroduce Doctor Who. But it's not taking Doctor Who, as you quite rightly said, as a question, as a mystery. It's making it almost a mythic story, which our contemporaneous character, Lizzie, steps into. So he has become a myth, basically.
Yeah. I think, had this actually been made, I think it would have had the reverse of the TV movie, in that I think it probably could have, with the right promotion, been successful in America.
I think this probably would have been.
But I think in the UK, it's BBC Two, either like 11 o'clock or 6 p.m. It's in that Next Generation slot. A niche audience watch.
Yeah.
And at this time, we're still talking a niche audience.
And it would have been very heavily cut. I mean, there's some bits in here in Fathers and Brothers that would never have made Alan Yentob's 6 p.m. zone. Never.
You mentioned Lizzie, the companion.
Yeah.
How does she fit into the story? How does she work? Does she work?
Lizzie is your archetypal American's idea of a plucky young Brit at the height of the Blitz who has a dog and a fiance and connections to the cabinet office, despite being an everywoman, which I can relate to, because I'm sure that every person who works in the Fischkatech down at Waterloo is deeply connected to Liz Truss and her lettuce. But Lizzie's an everywoman. Lizzie's our viewpoint eyes through the story. There's a lovely line later on where she's talking about the various machinations that the Master's going through. And she says, is there any other family members that I've not met yet? And if you look at that, it's an innocuous line, but you look at that and think, we had to wait until pretty much Claire Bloom came stuttering out of a cupboard in 2010 before we met somebody who might have been the Doctor's mother, possibly, potentially, hypothetically. And this deals with it in probably the first 25 minutes.
Yeah, no, it is the end of time.
Yeah.
It's the series opener almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're only dealing with like the highlights here, it's hard to grasp onto the characters. I think I would love to find the script for this, and I believe it has appeared from time to time.
Somebody bought it on eBay, I think, recently a while ago.
But I have yet to find a copy, and if I ever do, maybe we'll meet again here and discuss.
We'll have a table read. We'll ask that poor chap behind the box office who's looking at us slightly concerned.
Does it feel like Doctor Who?
It feels like a Clip Notes version of a diluted idea of what Doctor Who is like. It's like I'll tell you what this is like. This is a Wikipedia synopsis version of Doctor Who. There's even a scene where and I presume it would have been another actor, because there's no way poor old Paul Jericho would have done it. There's even a scene where they've got the Castellan character who's thrown to the wolves by the Master and gets to go away screaming. That's detailed in the pitch.
Yeah.
There's a Paul Jericho moment in the pitch.
But some of this is... So Jean-Marc Lefisier has some sort of relationship with Philip Siegel.
Yeah.
He's sort of the Ian Levine.
So they apparently met at I've got to get this right, I think it's the Gallifrey Convention in 1994. They did a panel where they were going through the realities and intricacies of American TV production and trying to assuage fan concern. Bear in mind, this was a traumatised generation that had just come out of the Battle of Wrigglesford. So we were all naturally quite traumatised. And they didn't know all these transatlantic rumours, how's it going to work, what's it going to do. And basically, Jean-Marc and Randy, his wife, were there, and they did a panel trying to reassure people about what the potentialities of it were. Little did they know that Philip Segal was there,
Right.
who then approached them. This is all detailed by Jean-Marc in the book. Who then approached them to say, would you like to kind of be consultants on this? I don't quite know who approached who. I would imagine it was probably a bit of both. There's a good bit of hustling going on there, but it was good-natured hustling.
Yeah.
And so they remain attached to the various iterations of Fathers and Brothers in Time of Our Life for a good few drafts.
Yeah. I don't think they were ever paid, were they?
No, but so many of us aren't, Dylan. So it reminds me of my first paper round, but anyway. But yeah, no, I don't think George Washington's head crossed the table at any point. But I think they were quite happy just to be there and be part of it. You know, this was, at the time, potentially the genesis, if you pardon the pun, of a whole new version of the show, you know, and the opportunity to be part of that, I'm sure they leapt at the chance. I don't know, I certainly would have done.
Yeah. And it's also this thing of, it's an origin story, as we said, and Leakley was basically like, he said, I told Phil I'd be very interested in the job if I could write the origin story of the mythology. And it's weird because all throughout a lot of the interviews Philip Siegel's given, he's always been saying, well, you know, I want it to be a continuation. Yeah. But his first sort of pen to paper is, no, we're rebooting the whole thing.
And I think, retrospectively, I think that probably was the right idea, in my opinion. Yeah. At that time, I love the TV movie to bits. It's a mad, bonkers beast of a production. Yeah. But it's not a reboot of a show, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, you've got, bear in mind, 1996, I think we're looking at EastEnders had just done Sharon Gate. And Phil had just slept with, I don't think, I was going to say he slept with Grant there, but that's a different show. Phil had just slept with Sharon, and, you know, you've got, this was getting 14, 15, 16 million. You know, and then you've got an advert for Euro 96, and we're seeing how many mistakes Gareth Southgate can make. And all of a sudden, you've got Paul going, he was on the planet Skaro. And, 30 seconds, that's 28 years you've just described there. And you sit there, you could have just imagined some guy going, yeah, do you know what? I'm going to watch Family Fortunes.
The thing is, if this had gone to a series, I mean, been made and gone to a series, it wouldn't have necessarily, unless it was the biggest thing in the world, it wouldn't necessarily have negated what Russell did in 2005. If they ran for 2 or 3 seasons.
This would have been another cushion.
Yeah.
Another cushion.
And you would talk about, and it would be classed as non-canon until one day somebody went, I know what we can do.
Just on the cusp of COVID, Chris Chibnall decided to write a sequence that wrote in Peter O'Toole in a Joe Martin flashback, collectively, spontaneously making Ian Levine combust.
So what we haven't talked about here is, you said it's Doctor Who sort of cherry picking the bits, and it's still trying to remain true, and perhaps things get a bit more convoluted with the next draft. But we've got the Daleks, we've got the Master, and we've got Davros. How do they handle
all of the linchpins? So I'll tell you a mini anecdote, a sousson here. I had no idea that they were doing an American version of this, because, you know, I was a child at the time, and my main priorities were making sure that I had fish fingers on a Wednesday night. And that's not a euphemism either. And so I remember my first inclination, even the thing that this was being done. There was a fantastic show in the 1990s called Games Master.
I remember
Now, I used to love my Sega Master System 2 with a fidelity that borders upon obsession. And I used to religiously watch Games Master. And one day, Dominic Diamond, he of the salty hair, did a Vox Pop cutaway where he showed about and you can find this on YouTube as well, a 4 or 5 second clip of this 8-foot arachnid man thing that unfolded from a Dalek casing. That he memorably said his pants look more like a Dalek than that does. I'm not even going to attempt a Dominic Diamond accent. My Paul McGann's bad enough. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. He's just said Steven Spielberg's making a version of Doctor Who. What the hell is this all about?
Yeah.
Then we had 30 Years in the TARDIS and the Alan Yentov, epilogue.
Yeah.
And so gradually but bear in mind that every month we were being told that the series was being rebooted.
Yeah.
You'd say one month that David Hasselhoff was going to be the Doctor, with Les Dennis's Bunyan as K9. And this was a regular thing. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, so the Daleks and you know what? And to this day, I love the Spider Dalek design. I love it because it looks properly frightening.
Yeah.
And this goes back to what you were discussing a bit earlier, is that they were prepared to take risks.
Yeah.
They were prepared to take that visual iconography, and this is a very Amblin thing to do. They did it with Jurassic Park. They take this visual iconography and they twist it and they spin it and they make it relevant and scary. And I love Ray Cusick's design, but the idea that you've got a new, what De Laurentiis calls the X7 version of the Daleks, you've got a new creature effectively being birthed from the shell of the old. That's a great metaphor for the reboot of the show. So I love the Daleks in this.
I think it's a great idea, and it's something that I do think that the Daleks need tarting up every now and then, and I think I love that image. It's just that what looks not quite like a Dalek, but recognisable
enough to kind of pin on.
And they're described in the script as when we come across a Dalek, it's described as a monstrous creature, as much spider as human. As it rises up, we see the armour separate from the body, revealing an insect abdomen. The claw-like hand and arms unfold, which are pointed hooks that extend out. It's 8 feet high, its eyes red, and face which is barely humanoid, with a mouth with fangs. Which
reminds me very much of my first wife. Sorry, Abigail. But
she's not listening, is
she's
she?
Fictional, it's fine. We can move on. She's not offended. She's a fictional construct. I love it. I love that design. And it was one of the only things I liked about He Who Shall Not Be Named, the Wilderness Felons Dark Dimension. I love the Cybermen design. I love that. With the kind of Wolverine claws. Again, you're taking something visually recognisable and you're spinning it. And that's what it did right.
Yeah.
I love it.
We meet Davros again in this, and their chief scientist is described as a paraplegic. His eyes, ears, face, throat, and main organs and left arm have been replaced with biomass plastic. His whole body seems crumpled. The rest of his body is not visible, hidden by elegant flowing robes. His name means bearer of gifts in Old Khalid tongue. He was the only man to have lived through the neutron wars, making him 125 years old, hence his cyborg appearance. And underneath his robes, obviously, he's got sort of
the classic, with a spin on that, with the spider legs.
Yeah.
Which really, without kind of bringing us right up to date, the idea and that passage where we introduce Davros and where we see him, and how it's played upon that he's more man than Dalek at this point. That's very much what Russell was going for with the Destination Skaro last year, And again, it's restoring that humanity to Davros. And I'll go on record and saying I think that's absolutely the right idea that Russell's done by making Davros more humanoid. Because I think effectively it takes away, should we say, the more problematic images of the 70s, and we have to accept that times have changed, and I think that's only the right thing to do. But it makes the character more chilling because it makes him a man that's created a race of hatred, terrifying creatures, which parallels very well with the Nazi storyline as well.
Just to go on that Davros tangent, I really like the idea that perhaps he's a bit more like the Borg Queen in First Contact, where he can fit into various different things, and perhaps this, which ultimately we're talking about a 5-minute skip, but imagine there's a storyline with him where he is a bit more of a man, but then you realise he's repaired himself in different ways, and he, perhaps he was once in we'll call it the wheelchair version. Jump over to, well, no, I'm a genius, so I've built myself legs.
Exactly. If you're a world-class universal scientist that's created the most indestructible killing machines in the galaxy, your top of your priority list is going to be constructing yourself a new body. It would certainly be mine. I mean, I'd be like, you know what? I can put Waitrose on hold. I want to get a new body sorted out. You know, and absolutely, totally the right thing for Russell to do. Got rid of the problematic kind of parts of the character in the contemporary world, which is what Doctor Who should be doing. It should be looking at itself and judging where we can do better. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's talk about the Master then. Like, so the Master, his brother.
The Master, his brother, who I'll read you the introduction of him here, because I absolutely adore this. It's basically like somebody's just sketched out a basic version of Alan Rickman. So we've got, the first is the Master, who is Gallifrey's Minister of Defence. He is in his 40s with eyes like black lasers and a face like Iago. I love that, because instantly Leakley's married it to a recognisable construct. So you've got the Iago illusion there. You can picture that description in your mind's eye. That's beautiful writing. Beautiful writing. It is pretty much made for Alan Rickman. Yeah. But, you know, it's beautiful writing.
I imagine Alan Rickman would have been on the list to play both
can you imagine that?
The Master
I'm not doing that. No.
It's interesting that they choose to throw all these elements. We've already talked about the Time Lord Law, but to throw the Daleks, Davros, and the Master all at this first go.
Yeah.
And presumably, the series, while it would have the Doctor looking for his father again, would also have, I'm guessing, they would be the big reoccurring threats.
That would be the army that's kind of plaguing him throughout the show, which again retools the Daleks into an adversary that's matched with him at the start of his journey.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's very much, you know, you're looking at the spine of the show, as you say, kind of looking for his father. That's a 5-year Bible. That's your Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
That's your next gen. You know, that's your mission statement. You can see that having 5-6 episodes a year, an opener, a finale, and a couple of mid-season sweeps episodes.
Yeah. Because I think people look at that Leakley Bible a little bit too much in detail. It's like, it was only ever like these.
It was designed to show what the show could do.
Yeah. And I've got no, you know, I'm sure they would have picked on some of those, because there's some great, when you've got those 26 years of history and rebooting, there is some great things to pick from there.
Absolutely. What I like about the Bible is it uses that to show the depth of the format, but what it does is, and this was, you had to expect this because it was a co-production at the time, is that they've taken American mysteries. So one of the actual side shoots they did to show it, they actually did a scene breakdown of the Gunfighters, which they retooled to call "Don't Shoot, I'm the Doctor." And again, they deal with that in the OK Corral. So I absolutely think that you would have had episodes dealing with the US civil rights of independence. You'd have had the War Between the Roses. You'd have had Rosa Parks. You'd have had Rosa Parks 30 years early.
Yeah, probably it would be completely distasteful by modern standards.
Oh, it would have been a 1990s problematic. You know, it would have made the Davros controversy look like a storm in a car led. You know.
Are you aware of how this ties into the book The Infinity Doctors?
I know. Do you know, I've read that, and I shout out to Lance Parkin. I love his work. Is it to do with the Doctor? Is it to do with the Doctor's father?
Yes. So
at the university.
The novel The Infinity Doctors is set on a version of Gallifrey in which the various 1990s attempts to give backstory to Doctor Who exist in a universe coexisting and contradicting history as it shifts. Reflecting on Father Brothers would have shown Paul McGann playing a doctor at the beginning of his adventures. Other aspects of the novel also align with Fathers and Brothers. The Doctor is shown to own a TARDIS, inherited from his explorer father, which is stuck in rectangular form. He seems to have already come in conflict with the Master and the Daleks, and despite still living on Gallifrey, he has already travelled through space and time and fallen in love with Earth. Yeah, essentially, so it does make it into the canon.
I think there's a bit in Gallifrey Chronicles as well. I'm fairly certain that there is a bit where the antagonist of that novel, a character called Marnell, talks about seeing the Doctor's life through a time scope. I think it's a sphere or some sort of jiggery pokery that he kind of dreams up. And he talks about there's being a version of it where he's got a wife and is living in San Francisco with his father who works at a university. Yeah. So Parkin's very good at kind of taking all of this.
Is the next pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's version number 3.
And I think there's bits of it in Neverland or Zagreus. I can't remember which one, where they also sort of do a little mention of Death Comes to Time as well. Of like,
no, I like that. No mention of David Burton though.
No mention of David. One day.
Poor fucker has been ostracised again. Banished to Widow Twankey's pantomimes at Christmas forever.
Is there anything else you want to say on this version before we move on to the rewrite?
Yeah, I mean, I love what Leakley did in this. I think this is the stronger of the two for me, because this one's more mythic archetypes and the legend. I can see this is very much pitched. For me, I visualise this as an episode of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which also, incidentally, Matthew Jacobs, who ended up writing the movie, worked on. Yeah. But it's very fun.
And also starred brief cameos from John Pertwee and Colin Baker.
There you go. And Harrison Ford, who phoned it in for a Sweeps episode, sat in a chair.
Yeah.
God bless the man. Yeah, it's very much of that ilk, of that time. It's the one I prefer of the two. In many ways, I think if you're looking at the something to reboot the show, I think this was probably the strongest fall they did. And I think it's quite a damn shame we never got it made. I think it probably would have become a curio like the Cushing movies. We could easily have written it off if we chose to. And from what John says in the Nth Doctor, it ended fairly abruptly. You know, it was they were doing. I think he says they were a day away from hiring a production designer.
Yeah,
they'd done recce's in Utah for Skaro, and old Uncle Stevie was in the edit on Schindler's List and decided he wanted a more fun version of Doctor Who that was less lore heavy. Which brings us nicely to Robert De Laurentiis.
Yeah, too hot for TV.
The Doctor and his research assistant Sherman are exploring an asteroid when they are teleported to Skaro and discover that the Doctor's half-human brother, the Master, has allied himself with the Daleks. Sherman is killed, but the Doctor escapes back to Gallifrey, where he learns that his grandfather, Cardinal Barusa, has been killed and the Master has seized power. The Doctor flees Gallifrey in his TARDIS and travels to London during the Second World War in search of his long-lost father. There, he meets American WAC Lizzie Travis and her bulldog Winston. Lizzie helps the Doctor discover that his father has regenerated and was captured while leading an American unit which was trying to assassinate Adolf Hitler. The Doctor and Lizzie travel to the United States in the 1990s. There, they apparently find his father, who agrees to accompany them back to Gallifrey. However, this is really the Master, masquerading as their father, whom he has captured. The Doctor escapes and sabotages the Master's time-travelling warship, but his half-brother gets away. The Doctor returns Lizzie to Earth before he and Winston set off in pursuit of the Master. This synopsis was taken from ShannonSullivan.com.
Too hot for TV.
So yeah, Robert De Laurentiis rewrites it, and this script has come to be known as Time of My Life. So this contains all the same elements pretty much as the last one, but I would say it strays even further from.
This is less like Doctor Who. This is really this is and what I like. I mean, we'll get onto it, but what I like about this is the Time of My Life plays a lot more like an episode of an American science fiction show that happens to share some elements of Doctor Who.
Yeah,
it borrows from the lore. It's not beholden to the lore. Whereas Leakley is trying to curate something new. Yeah. De Laurentiis is putting everything in a melting pot and just stirring it furiously and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
A bit like my old dad used to do when he made soup. Although slightly less successful.
Yeah, it's almost going. I mean, you take the Daleks.
Yeah.
In that last version, they were something that looked like the Daleks that turned into something else. In this, they're basically Terminators.
Yeah, they're Arnold without the governorship.
Yeah. It's ectoskeletons with people grafted. So much like Cybermen, anybody can be turned into a Dalek.
You've basically taken. You know what I thought was quite interesting about this, from a listener's point of view, if they want to find something that I think is the closest analogous kind of exploration we've ever had for this type of Dalek, is probably those weird things in Asylum of the Daleks where eye stalks came out of people's heads. Yeah. That's how I visualise this to be. That's the closest kind of you're going to get as a visual reference. Yeah. It's very much, as you say, a Terminator crossed with,
They can shapeshift as well, or is that
the
Master? The Master can also. The Master can hypnotise people to think he looks like other people rather than being the Master.
I can do that after 6 beers. but I'm not as successful. It wears off.
what are the key ways that it's different?
So, Time of My Life takes us, and we start in media res. We start in the middle of an adventure with the Doctor and his not at all stereotypical, belligerent, overweight, middle-aged male companion, Sherman.
Who's eating a sandwich.
The
most relatable character in Doctor Who.
There's certain Who fans that I think would be perfect casting for this. We're in the home of the BFI. I'm not going to invoke the holy name because I don't want him to strike me down.
If you say it 3 times,
he will appear. He'll appear with a reconstructed copy of The Massacre.
And charge you £100.
Yeah, which is a bargain. I've always wanted a copy of The Massacre starring Hilda III. But yeah, so we start in media res. We start in the middle of an adventure. It's the Doctor and his companion Sherman on Skaro, where they are confronted by the Daleks, or the Arnold Daleks, as I shall call them for this, and yet another vision of the Master, who appears to have moved on from his Alan Rickman incarnation, and I think we're now at the David Hardwick, Jeremy Brett version. And then bang, cue titles. So again, there's no attempt to introduce concepts to a new audience here. We're straight in.
Sherman's a weird addition because also he dies about 2/3 of the way through.
Well, you kind of get the impression that it's kind of. I'd like to think De Laurentiis was shown a picture of a Who fan and just thought, that's nice. Do you know what we should do as a mythic archetype for this? Let's just murder him callously 20 minutes in and say, there's your reboot. Deal with it. But yeah, Sherman's a very weird character. I just want to know what was in the sandwich, really.
So Spielberg said he wants it to be more fun.
Yeah, he gave them strict directions, apparently, that he wanted something that was more of a romp, that was more adventurous and light.
Does it feel more fun?
Not really.
No.
Not really. It seems like somebody's taken John's script, shaken it about a bit, put a bit of shake and vac on it, and tuned it in with a bulldog.
Yeah.
And we've got Sherman, we've got an overweight man eating a sandwich, we've got Arnold Schwarzenegger playing the Terminator, and my personal favourite, we've got a new version of Lizzie, who is now called Jane McDonald, and doesn't work on an opera ship. And at no point has she released a Christmas album or calendar in Woolworths. Worse the pity.
Yeah, it's so not the rewrite that I think was ordered that I can sort of see why it wasn't commissioned.
Oh God, yeah.
And also, I'm sure John Leakley could have rewritten his own script to a point of turned it into a bit more of a romp, possibly more successfully.
Yeah, I think if John, I like Fathers and Brothers, but I can see what, if you're picturing Spielberg in the editing suite on Schindler's List, he probably wants to go into a more lighter project, and he's basically given an episode of The West Wing with obelisks. I can understand him going, this isn't really the show I remember, I've done this.
Yeah.
But yeah, this strays totally away. It's Leakley's script in basic conceit only.
Yeah.
We've ripped the soul out of the thing.
Yeah.
It's more of a romp. There's a lot more adventurous and dynamic set pieces to it than in Fathers and Brothers. Fathers and Brothers is basically your political machinations, your Skaro, a bit of World War II, a bit of ancient Egypt. Yeah. This is all over the place, literally and metaphorically. Although it's got a dog, so that marries me to it more. Anything that's got a dog, I'm there for. That's my kryptonite.
The only thing that I think this version perhaps gets a little bit more right is that the Doctor suddenly feels a bit more fun.
Yeah, he's more of an adventurous character. Yeah. He's not. But again, he's in a different stage of his life. Fathers and Brothers, we're dealing with a young, handsome Doctor at the start of their adventures. Time of My Life, we've got somebody that's been travelling the universe for a while. They know who they are. They're confident with who they are.
Yeah.
It's the difference between season 12 Tom and season 18 Tom.
Yeah.
We've just come in at a different point.
And then you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but obviously we thought that the quest for his father actually seems to play more of a role in this.
Yeah, it does.
And we find him and we meet him. Dr. John Smith, I believe his name.
Dr. John Smith, formerly of the University of Berkeley.
Yeah, and he's very much just living his life in San Francisco.
As you do. Yeah, he's watching Melrose Place and going down the Quickie Mart and avoiding Kevin Smith. He's loving life.
But it seems, again, take the Leakley version. Finding him in ancient Egypt, you could still make that a lot more fun and more of a romp.
Absolutely.
This is the first San Francisco we get, which obviously does.
And there's a lot of elements that appear for the first time in this that are carried through there's even a bit where, and you can literally see ideas forming in Seagal's mind in this. There's even a line where Barusa refers to the enemy within.
Yeah.
And you can literally see them go, oh, well, I like that, and I'll have a bit of that, and we'll have. This is the natural progenitor of the TV movie in many ways, in terms of its pacing.
Yeah.
You know, narratively, we're in a different world,
Yeah.
but the pacing of it, the much more punchier, fun race against time. This is literally a countdown.
Yeah.
That's been carried through to the TV movie as well. So
it's still far too expensive, though.
Far too expensive, yeah.
Because the climax of the film, basically, it happens on Skaro, right?
It does. We've got another final confrontation with Scar, which basically this time just involves a dagger.
Yeah. But there's something about the Master. It's the end where it really falls apart for me, because there's a sort of sacrificial dagger. The Master needs the Doctor's help to build a time rotor, because somehow the Doctor's the only one that can do it.
And we've got limited time to do it.
Yeah. And it's all just a bit messy towards
We've got 15 minutes before Peter Davison's studio lights are turned out. The doomsday clock is ticking.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of antecedents to the TV movie in this. But yeah, the last act is where it just completely falls apart, which again, it carries into the TV movie with, because it's that. But there's no timing malfunction here.
No, there is no timing malfunction. And the time rotor, the Daleks are less, like, because the Master...
They're just henchmen.
Yeah, the Master kills Davros, then basically the Master can make Daleks
the Master,
because everybody can make Daleks.
We all do. He's the Elon Musk of Daleks. He just literally updates it like a new Apple phone. It's
So basically, the Master's suddenly the commander of the Daleks, and I mean, one thing in neither of these scripts, nobody ever says exterminate, do they?
No. Well, bear in mind, if they're playing X7 ecoskeletons, they're probably saying "Hasta la vista, exterminate." I'd imagine if they are at the time. But yeah, all of the things that we come to know. Basically, as I said, the Daleks are just henchmen in this.
Yeah.
You could substitute and swap out any other.
Yeah.
They're there in name only. There's nothing that you would familiarise yourself with.
Yeah. One thing that was quite interesting to me in this one, though, the Doctor and Jane McDonald.
Yeah.
The Doctor loves her. You know.
Unequivocal. Well, we all do. We all used to watch Stars in Their Eyes and love Jane McDonald, but the Doctor loves her in a very chivalrous, kissing people up against a tree type of way.
Yeah. Yeah, but in the end, but also in both versions, the companion doesn't go off with the Doctor at the end, much like.
And again, that's a natural antecedent to the TV. Yeah, what I do like about both of these companions, Lizzie and Jane, is that they have a lot of agency of their own.
Yeah.
They both, I wouldn't call the word assistant, and I wouldn't call the word companion. They're the Doctor's equal for this. They're helping him on his journey as he is theirs. Yeah. Lizzie goes back to her life at the end of Fathers and Brothers, and Jane goes back at the end of this, is confronted by a Bobby on the beat, and is confident enough to move on to the next stage of her life.
Yeah.
Their narrative arc is complete. So in that way, you could say they're much more dynamic, modern characters than anything we'd have seen up to that point.
Yeah.
In the 90s.
And I think that does carry on with Grace, you know?
Yeah. I like the fact that Grace is her own woman and she goes off in the end.
Yeah.
I think really that if we were looking at it psychologically, the TV movie, as much as it is the Doctor's story, it's Grace's story of getting out of a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
And rediscovering who she was as a little girl.
Yeah.
Admittedly, it takes two bits of wires and a sticky bit of clock and a man who's going to graduate in poetry to do it, but we've all been there.
We talk about all of these reboots starting in the wrong way, and I think they pretty much all do, because that TV. I think, again, I'm not saying in the TV movie you need to lose what's at the beginning, but you could quite easily throw it at the end as like a sort of.
Do you know what I've always said? And I tried it once during lockdown, because obviously when the world was ending in 2020, we all had an infinite amount of spare time on our hand. And I remember reading an article, I forget who wrote it. If somebody ever finds out who did, let me know, because I'll buy them a pint. If you watch the TV movie from the moment that the chopping board cuts the fisheye, nothing before that. So you've lost your prologue, you've lost Jeffrey Sachs's squeaky Daleks, you've lost the theme tune. You just start with the fisheye.
Yeah.
It's so much more arresting. And weirdly, it ties back to our unearthly child, because you're dealing with the TARDIS in an alley.
Yeah.
And instead of William Russell coming from Robin Hood, you've got a load of triads, but you know, times have changed.
Yeah.
But it's so much more mysterious. You know, you've literally got a strange box materializes and a small man steps out and promptly gets shot to pieces.
Yeah.
It works.
It does, and the mystery of who that character is through Grace's eyes is so much more interesting.
And it also means the first time you see inside the TARDIS in the TV movie is when Yiji steps inside.
Yeah.
That works.
But it was not to be.
No, it was not to be. No, Philip Segal was insistent about having his Napoleonic hat on a tripod. Yeah. We had to have it.
It's interesting how, when you go back to these pictures, how safe and traditional the TV movie actually feels.
Yeah, it plays it really safe. I mean, God bless Philip Segal. God bless him, because I just like the fact, you know, we're sitting here in 2024 talking about the Disney budget of Who, about whether we can afford some corridors in Wild Blue Yonder. Phil Segal in 1996 constructed the entirety of the Doctor's toolbox on a Fox budget.
I know.
God bless that man.
Where is that toolbox?
I would imagine that Ian Levine has got it in his shed.
The sad thing about all that stuff is, because nobody at Fox gave a fuck about Doctor Who. Most of it was binned. I know a fan saved the console, but the rest of it, or it's in a storage somewhere. I have heard that they've managed to track down and get access to the original prints, though, for the TV movie. So,
I was not aware of that.
So when the next... I mean, this is through a friend of a, but they've actually got access to them. So
coming to Adventure Con Seattle 15 near you, the next TV console. Wow, I quite like that.
But yes, when we get the Blu-ray version, it will be taken from the original negatives.
Wow.
Which means they must have found potentially, I don't know, is it the whole rushes or is it just the...
Oh, you know, there's only one person who knows the answer to that, and it's arguably Russell Minton or Chris Chapman, because there's got to be a Wilderness box set coming.
Oh, there will be.
There is.
You know that there is, because there is stuff that was on the Survival DVD that was not put on the...
It was not put on anything else. Yeah.
So it's got you Search Out Science for what?
Search Out Science, Sylvester McCoy's infamous appearance with his Our Friends in the North mullet on Disney Time, with his TARDIS that looks like a shower. You know, these are gems that the world needs to see. I need to see Sylvester McCoy's shower in HD, and that's not a phrase I thought I'd ever say.
And those New Zealand Tom Baker adverts need to be on there.
Do you know what? That console looks really fucking good, actually. I was watching that thinking, this isn't bad. You know,
you could do a whole disc of just commercials.
Tom was clearly on something that day, but the set is amazing. You know, when is he not?
Yeah, very true. So, do you have much more you want to say on Time of My Life?
Time of My Life is not as good as Fathers and Brothers. It gets a whole pass for me purely because Robert De Laurentiis, God bless him, wrote a couple of episodes of The OC.
Right.
And if you've nothing more than given me Rachel Bilson to look at as a teenager, that man gets a whole pass.
Too hot for TV.
So, sort of as a... I mean, even in The Nth Doctor, it's very much an appendix.
Yeah, there's not as much time spent on this as Fathers and Brothers.
Is Jean-Marc Lefissier's own weird sort of pitch for Doctor Who. Now, what he says in this is this was never going to be made.
Yeah.
I guess we draw it back to these two things we've just discussed were never called Fathers and Brothers or Time of My Life. This is Jean-Marc Lefissier giving it an unofficial title that he ran past the authors, who clearly don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And he was...
I think this was roughly when Phil Segal was on annual leave.
Yeah. And I think Jean-Marc Lefissier is a Doctor Who fan of a certain age who needed it all to fit into a canon. Yeah. So he basically wrote a pitch that he would say, this isn't a Doctor Who pitch, but this is how you could work it if you wanted to tie it all in together. Yep. And so we end up with two things that I think are called The End of Time and
The Terrible
Zodin.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about Jean-Marc Lefissier, but I wonder
Good old Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny. I wonder whether he was like, but maybe if I give it to Siegel, he'll love this as a pitch and commission me to write it.
Yeah, I think he was hoping for a backdoor commission there, as we all do.
Very much in the Adrian Rogelsford, who managed to...
The wilderness felon.
Who managed to talk himself in to the BBC to write a 30th anniversary
That is the
special.
single greatest piece of BBC hustling since Red Dwarf 7.
So, tell us a little bit about these pictures, because these are...
Okay, so I'm going to start with Terrible Zodin. Terrible Zodin I quite like because it's very weird. And do you know what? I was watching the Chibnall era, and I don't mind the chimney. I quite like a lot of what Chris did, actually. The Terrible Zodin attempts to directly connect this Segalified version of Doctor Who with the classic series, with the 63-89 series. It has what I think could potentially be one of the best cliffhangers ever done in Doctor Who, just from a visual iconography point of view. And I'm absolutely certain that Russell will do a version of this in some way, shape or form one day. Maybe he already has, who knows. But we have a really strong female antagonist in our titular Terrible Zodin, who we finally meet after a throwaway mention in Five Doctors. And she's great. She's a full-on, overblown camp queen, Emma Thompson priestess. She's brilliant, and it's another quest story. So without boring listeners with all the semantics of it, because you can read the book and I'm sure you'll love it. If you don't, you're clearly mad. But the end of part 1 has the Doctor and his companion on a sinking Titanic with no means of escape, with the Terrible Zodin having taken the titular MacGuffin, leaving them in dire straits, and they are sorely going to have a watery grave. And even the Doctor says, I cannot do anything. The TARDIS is gone. Zodin's taken it. There's no way out. And then the TARDIS materialises and Sylvester McCoy steps out. And that's your end of season. And you can just imagine a fandom in 1996-7 going absolutely mad with that.
Because you could be back up at the end of series 1, you could be the end of series 2. All of a sudden you just tie it all in, and it basically goes, this is an alternative timeline, an alternative reality.
McCoy's basically destroyed, or been forced to destroy, his universe to save it from Zodin, saving it by destroying it, work that one out. But in so doing has created the Segaliverse.
Segallifrey is what we should call it.
Segallifrey.
Why?
Yeah. It's better than Saxifrey, which just sounds like something on Channel 5 on a Friday night. Segallifrey, he's basically created Segallifrey to deal with the destruction she has wrought, and appears to the Doctor as a sort of wraith-type manifestation, and is determined that same fate will not befall McGann's universe, and succeeds in their task, and departs for pastures new, leaving a lot of very relieved fanboy hearts behind him. So, and again, if you look at that from a contemporary lens, that is remarkably similar to a lot of what Chris Chibnall was doing with the Timeless Children.
Absolutely.
You know, except we're now tying Christopher Barry and George Galacchio into canon, which, to be fair, we've all wanted to do. You know, that's been on my bucket list for years.
Well, it's been on 50% of us as a bucket list, and the other 50% would be like, no, it was definitely Morbius.
Yeah, absolutely.
Philip Hinchcliffe and Robert Holmes both said it was the Doctor, but still, even though those fans that trust that Hinchcliffe and Holmes like implicitly go, no, they were wrong.
Russell Minton, if you're listening to this, please, when you do the collection box of season 13, can you just chuck Noel Edmonds in that scene, or somebody like that, just to really fuck people off?
Just throw Joe Martin in there.
Just throw Joe Martin in. There is a Joe Martin / David Burton cut that needs to be done. That is coming soon to a shelf near you.
Yeah, when everybody was hoping that other Doctors would be in Wild Blue Yonder, I was just hoping for Burton.
Oh God, yeah. Can you imagine David Burton coming out of a cupboard with an exceptionally long arm?
What about the other pitch? The End of Time.
The End of Time plays like an episode of The X-Files.
It does.
We have, again, touching upon what you said with Infinity Doctors earlier, we have the Doctor at a university as a lecturer / professor. We have his assistant there who's working / in conjunction with him. We have a mysterious dean called Mr. Magister. That's nice and original, boys.
Yeah, I wonder what they would have turned out to be.
God knows. If that's Paul Jericho being screaming again, then I will be a very happy man. And we have the Daleks, and I apologise for what I'm about to say, because I know that half the listeners are about to spontaneously combust. But we have the Daleks reimagined as aliens that steal cattle from fields and put crop circles in there, which I've got no problem with, as long as Peter Moyles is the one stencil it in the corn.
Yeah.
Moyles at 2 a.m. in a field in Iowa. I'm nearly done, Phil. I'm nearly done.
There's elements of the X-Files, Men in Black.
Yeah.
It is the most far removed.
Of all the pitches, this is the one it's not Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It's a great story in its own way. it hangs together. It's got a lot of mythic beats to it. Nobody would have commissioned this.
Yeah.
You know,
Because if you're going to commission that, then why spend any money on the rights for
Yeah.
Doctor Who? Because you could do that show.
you might as well just commission Crime Traveller.
Yeah.
You know, which hang on, they did.
Somebody did.
Somebody did. I'm going to hold out my stall here. And if you're familiar with Crime Traveller, you'll know there is a scene where the iconic suede-wearing Jeff Slade sees a TARDIS in the backyard of a courtyard, I think it is, and just smirks at it. I'm going out there saying that is going to be a Big Finish box set. We're getting the McGann Crime Traveller crossover. Nick Briggs, there's 4 box sets to be made there.
Wow. I mean, I would cover that straight away.
Oh, absolutely. Get we need David Wicks. Get David Wicks in the TARDIS, man. Michael French needs the work. Born and Bred is not coming back.
Remember when Michael French was everywhere?
Everywhere. And that magnificent mullet he had was amazing. It trailed behind him like a cape.
There are a couple of paragraphs each, couple of pages each. These pictures, as you said,
it's really an appendix.
Yeah, there's no danger of them getting made.
Danger being the right term.
I can see why you would do it and go, if you ever wanted to tie this up, but also you could just write an email to someone going, if you ever want to tie this up, you could just have it as not like Jean-Marc has gone for.
He's gone full tilt on this.
Yeah, he's gone full crazy fan.
Yeah,
and you can imagine why at that point Seagal's going, I don't know whether I should involve myself with these guys.
All of a sudden, the man who works on Indiana Jones Chronicles, who's come up with something quite fresh, looks a remarkably good prospect. God bless Matthew Jacobs.
I do have memories of going on the early Records Doctor Who from an internet cafe, and Philip Seagal used to post on there.
Did he really?
And
wow.
I remember him saying, like he used to do like a Q&A thing.
Right.
And I remember him saying, if the series is successful, I'd love to get back John Pertwee and Tom Baker for cameos. It was like, I'd love to get Terence Dix to write something, and I'd love to get Eric Saywood back to write an episode.
Wow.
Now, something that's mentioned in the Nth Doctor quite a lot, and I don't know, I'd need to verify this elsewhere, but he seems to discuss the possibility that perhaps Terence Dix was going to write a version of one of these at some point.
I mean, I just want to see Terence Dix go into the Writers Guild of America and explain to them what a target is, because that's a discussion I want to sit on.
I don't think Terence Dix was the right person to relaunch that show.
No.
Do you know, I have a sort of an idea of a part Terence Dix could have played in Doctor Who's future. Terence Dix went on to become a producer, and I'm not saying in the 90s, and again, if this happened, we probably would have got the Cartmel era, which I love. But when John Nathan Turner was getting tired, I think there was a world where Terence Dix could have taken over Doctor Who as producer with a new script editor.
I think that, we're going on a tangent here, but I think really in 1990, you had the Thatcher government doing producer choice.
Yeah.
You had increasingly stuff being farmed out to independent producers / studios. I think really at that point you needed an analogous type thing to the early 80s when you had Barry Letts working with Nathan Turner. I think you needed an ideas person. I think you needed a money man.
Yeah.
I think you needed 2 producers there. I know Verity Lambert bid for it. Cinema Verity bid for it in the early 90s. And I think Verity, dealing with the modern landscape and being such a pioneer in TV production, coupled with the imagination of somebody like Terence or an other Terence equivalent, I think that's all you needed.
One thing that should be said is the reason a lot of the pictures of the early 90s didn't happen is because Seagal was promising Spielberg to the BBC.
Yeah, that was the name that had the weight.
Even though it was only ever going to be an executive producer credit, he definitely lied through his teeth about,
I think
that's the sell.
That's your hook. And that we both know that had that gone to series, that would have been publicised as from the mind of Steven Spielberg, from the studio of Steven Spielberg.
He's read the scripts once and gone, maybe change that, maybe do that.
Yeah. Why is Paul Jericho in it?
Some of the pictures in the early 90s, the Verity Lambert one, I think, is the one that holds the most weight because she was still a very successful producer.
I think, realistically speaking, she probably would have been the one the BBC would have gravitated towards had she gone in there with a really strong creative team.
Who did she want? Was Peter Sellers about Peter Cook? One of the Peters.
One of the Peters.
I know Derek Sherwin made a pitch, but Sherman had been out to TV for a long time by then.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, Verity had, by that point, she'd done a powerhouse of drama. I mean, I always, God bless Verity, love a series she did in the 90s with Joanna Lumley called Class Act.
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh my God, it was a network original. It was basically Joanna Lumley and John Bow getting up to a load of mismatched scrapes. But she was doing great products. She was prime time. She was prime time
she
ITV.
was someone that was held in high esteem within the industry and could have been. I'm not saying it would have carried on and still be running now, but it might have had the show run for another 5 years, something like that.
Yeah, I think she could have certainly carried an other Doctor's tenure in there.
Yeah,
could even have been Michael French.
it could have. Oh,
Everything else was that him in.
Or fucking, I know we're not quite at Jonathan Creek time yet, but obviously that was her as
No,
well.
that career died as Alan Davis's hair grew gradually shorter. It's like the Samson effect in reverse.
Anything else we want to say on L'Officier's?
Yeah, guys, if you haven't read it, go and seek it out because that's some mad shit.
The whole book is still online. Like, you can get it for free.
Oh, good, excellent.
If you look in the right places, or I'm sure you can pick it up on eBay and stuff like that. But
worth a read.
It not only deals with these pictures we've talked about, it talks about the other, the Denny Martin Flynn pitch and the Johnny Byrne, all the ones that were through. What were they called? Blacklight at one point.
Blacklight, yeah. We've got all of the Ezra and Doug David drafts in there. We even have a guest appearance from Doctor Who's Most Wanted. He who shall not be named,
the Wilderness Felon.
The Wilderness Felon makes his appearance in there with his marvelous Dark Dimension.
Excellent.
But that's another tale.
Too hot for TV.
The next thing we're going to cover is Bidding Adieu from BBV, released in April 1996. News at the time, Philip Siegel said there was a 5-year deal in place for Universal and the BBC to make Doctor Who that would probably be a series of standalone 45-minute stories. The magazine also included a preview of the TV movie and a list of all the Doctor Who videos that the BBC decided to delete when they announced the new series, which is a really odd thing to do. Well, not the new series, they announced the TV movie, which is a really odd thing to do to make something less available, especially when this list includes Ark in Space, Brain of Morbius, The City of Death, and Curse of Fenric.
They didn't delete their social media at the same time for a publicity, did they?
The best publicity there's ever been.
There's nothing says, watch our new series by deleting your posts.
Also out at the time, the comic strip running was Cybermen, The Ugly Underneath, and Black Destiny with the Fourth Doctor, Sari, and Harry fighting zombies. Book-wise, we had Death and Diplomacy featuring the Seventh Doctor, Benny, Roz, and Chris. The Eye of the Giant featuring the Third Doctor, the Brigadier, Liz, Benton, and Yates. And Who Killed Kennedy featuring the Third Doctor, Dodo, Liz, the Brigadier, Joe, and Benton.
God bless Dodo. God bless Dodo. Bring Dodo back.
I know. Well, she's been recast and she's hot in Big Finish.
Oh, she's amazing. Yeah. I hope she's not listening to this because I might get cancelled. But yes, she's wonderful in several ways.
So, did you read any of those books?
I did. Kill Kennedy is an amazing book. You know what? Tangent time. So I've always said, I'm looking at Doctor Who here as a piece of drama. I'm not looking at it as a fan. The story, and it's kind of the flip side of your school reunion, the one story that makes sense as a dramatic piece of fiction to bring back a character is Dodo. Because the woman had an accent. Originally she was a Scouser. Then she went RP. She had no backstory. When she arrives in the massacre at the end, she says, a little boy's been knocked over. What the fuck happened to that little boy?
He's dead.
Clearly. He's been by a tree on Wimbledon Common for quite some time. And she really inconsistent backstory. If we're taking that and she just leaves in the middle of the War Machines halfway through. Yeah. She just says, oh, do you know what? I've had enough of time and space. I'm going to live in Wiltshire. Because, they've got a Royal Horticultural Society garden there and 17th century Cornwall can't compete. So bring her back, Russell.
There's a lot you could do with Dodo.
There's a lot you could do with Dodo.
Jackie Lane, unfortunately, was never interested in telling this story.
Bless her, no. She was a wise lady. She liked her rhododendrons.
So, Bidding Adieu. For the uninitiated, what is Bidding Adieu?
AKA what I did on my Vancouver vacation. Bidding Adieu is the only BBV output to ever be directed by an Olivier Award winner. The lesser-known Mr. Mark Gatiss of the Gatorene.
Yeah, and also the only one to ever get a preview on the Big Breakfast.
Absolutely, yeah. The only Spielbergs product to have Johnny Vaughan slapping a card across his knee while making smutty 90s innuendos. And for that alone, it deserves a pride of place on your podcast, Dylan. It's a video diary curated by Mr. McCoy and directed by Mark Gatiss, in liaison with Spielbergs and BBV, detailing his time on the production in Vancouver of the television movie and his last few weeks in the saddle as the incumbent Doctor. And it is fucking fascinating.
It absolutely is. Now, just before we delve into it, I think, as always, Spielbergs watch on this.
Absolutely,
on this podcast.
absolutely.
We have to talk, Spielbergs at this point was, I'm going to say, at the height of his powers.
Oh,
in
God,
terms
yeah.
of, I don't think he pissed too many people off, although it was Nicola Bryant's about to disappear around this time.
Yeah. We're post zero imperative.
Yes, yeah. But he's still got all the doctors on his side.
He has, yeah. Peter Davison is still lurking in the basement of a hospital singing Daisy Daisy, so all is good with the world.
And never one to miss an opportunity. He'd been working with Sylvester, and the moment Sylvester says, I'm going to do this, he's like, do you want to take a camera with you? Yeah. Can I come? And then he soon realises he can't go because his wife's about to have a child, and even he's not that callous.
No.
So he sends his good friend Mark Gatiss. It's all shot on a video camera.
Yeah.
This is not, even for BBV standards, not...
It's a whole movie. It is. Yeah. It's a whole movie. It just happens to be on an international co-production skirting the fringes of intellectual property.
Yeah, and they're very careful.
Yes, they are.
So we do see a little bit of the exterior set. We don't see anything on the back lot.
I think the closest thing you get to really serious infringement, and I'm sure that there'll be some legally minded people that will tell me otherwise, is that Sylv films himself in his trailer in his reimagined Seventh Doctor costume. It says, this is the last outfit I will ever wear as the Doctor.
Little did he know he'd be on a
Little
rock
did he
sometime.
ever know that he would be exiled to Pensioner Island in just north of Purgatory.
Yeah, or appear in Tales of the TARDIS with some trousers that are slightly too tight for him.
Yeah, God bless him.
But,
God bless him. In a set that looks like Lovejoy's study. When Ian McShane pops out of Colin Baker's set, then I will be all very happy.
The other bits of infringement, you get a bit of the alley where Chang Li...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that, yeah.
We get his trailer...
Christ, to look cold there.
Yeah, we get the back lot, not the back lot, but where their facilities trucks are parked, and him in his trailer, coming out of his trailer, and we have a brief chat with Jeffrey Sachs.
Isn't there a tiny bit where you see the back of Philip Segal, and then the camera goes very shaky as they realise that might not be the best idea?
So Philip Segal said, no, you cannot bring this onto my set. But I think, so the way he gets away with it is, Mark Gatiss does all his stuff in the hotel, well away from the set. And then Sylv brings in his camera every now and then. And it's
wonderful.
It's fascinating.
It's wonderful. Paul McGann, bless him, has not been to the University of Convention 101 yet. He's fabulously off kilter.
Yeah.
He's fabulously incorrect.
Yeah.
He's sat there with a glass of what I presume is Merlot.
Yeah.
Sporting his Chris Ryan shaven head. And he looks absolutely terrified at the thought of doing conventions.
Oh, yeah. He says it makes his skin crawl.
He does, and that is an exact quote, listeners.
Yeah.
We're not attaching anything to Paul here. That is an exact quote. He says, and he calls Sylv Kent because they've known each other for years, and it's just literally you can see Sylv's gradually coaxing him into the reality of what he's taken on. It's kind of like the equivalent of what I would imagine that Aaron Taylor-Johnson's going through now at the dinner room table as somebody says, Aaron, you really fucking need to finish The Spy Who Loved Me because you're going to need that information fairly soon. There'll be a man who's questioning you about the continuity. And it's fascinating, we've got Paul in his hotel room looking like he's absolutely mortified. And then, touching back upon Lovejoy, we pay a visit to the antiques cave of Annika Wills, which is not a euphemism. She actually did have an antique shop at this time. And it looks a very nice shop, actually. There's some very nice mood lighting. I could do with some of those illuminated wine bottles for when I'm hosting a dinner party. It's a lovely salubrious environment.
It's bizarre. Like nothing quite like this exists in the history of Doctor Who in any other way.
Can you imagine the equivalent? I mean, I think we had Tennant's video diaries on the but that was very cleverly.
And it was also official.
And it was official, and it was sanitised.
A month before
it's amazing.
the TV movie.
Amazing. Can you imagine the equivalent of that now?
Yeah.
Can you imagine like Millie Gibson recording her trip to Tesco's on her way to set, saying, "I'm not really sure about what we're doing with the TARDIS set this day, and what exactly is a temporal timing malfunction."
Millie Gibson going, "Do you know what? I'm very tired. I'm not sure I'm going to stick around for a second series, or if I do, in a severely
I've been offered a female Hamlet, so unfortunately the reboot of Snake Dance is going on the back burner. And good on you, girl."
Does it capture the sort of mood of fandom at the time in a way?
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of that kind of collective apprehension that we all had in the 1990s. Syl pontificates about it. He got on a plane, he'd read the script, but he didn't really know how it was going to look, how it was going to turn out. Really nice touch. He said the hat is his own.
Yeah.
The hat's I think it's not only the same hat that he had for the actual show, but it's the same hat he wore in his audition.
Right.
So it's gone all the way from Janet Fielding's sub kind of Thatcher caricature all the way to a rainy soaked alley and been shot at.
Yeah.
And he said he offered them the umbrella and they said no. So
I could do with the umbrella. I'm glad that
you wouldn't even have seen it in that alley, would you? You know, you'd have got shot to pieces and just.
Yeah. But it's interesting. Like
Eric Roberts would have swamped his goo all over it.
You can't imagine now a piece of unofficial or official promo having the two Doctors there and it going, "Oh well, we're not sure whether it's going to be any good or be a success." Like now, it's like it's the best thing we've ever done. It's
Can you
amazing.
imagine Tennant and Shooty sat in a chair saying, "Do you know what? Are you going to MegaCon Washington next week?" "You know, I would, but I'm gonna miss Lovejoy." It's just not going to happen. You know, it was a different universe. It really was.
It's a very odd time, and the fact that, I mean, I'll be perfectly honest with you. If Billy did even do this now, it would be the moment it was mooted in Doctor Who magazine.
It'd be knocked out.
The BBC would be in touch and be like, "You are not putting this out there." There's a real somber mood to McCoy, especially, on it, isn't there?
I mean, I look at it, and if you strip it, actually, and this is, I think, down to a lot of... Because Gatiss has got some great directorial flushes here, you know, the way he holds the camera and everything. It's very... this effectively is an actor saying goodbye to a job.
Yeah.
It's somebody literally and metaphorically bidding adieu. He's been the incumbent Doctor, and, you know, I'm not in that mindset, but he's carried the weight of being the man in the role of this program through effectively what he thought was his death period.
Yeah.
And he's been asked to come back to hold the baton over, pass it on to Paul. And he's a mix of emotions on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very nice how they've touched base with Annika, because, you know, how she was present at the first regeneration in 66.
But also present in Canada at the time.
But also present and in possession of a shop and a green card.
Now, you know who we don't get, who is
Tell me, sir. Tell me.
We don't get Janet Fielding, who is Paul McGann's agent, and comes over. She does come over for...
There's no deleted scenes of her telling Paul not to do it on the phone.
Well, I mean, what's interesting, Bill Bax has said that he's got a lot more footage from this.
Right.
Because they didn't know what they were going to get, so Mark Gatiss just tries a lot of things. And he's never released it, but he said, you know, there's stuff with Gatiss doing links, there's like bits of interview they cut out, and he exploits everything, so I can only assume he can't find the tape.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's at the bottom of a little drawer somewhere.
Yeah.
Underneath the child's birth certificate is the Gatiss edit.
And that letter he got in 1994 saying he could use the Liz Shaw character.
Is that next to the filing cabinet of cease and desist letters?
Yeah. Does it give much away about the TV movie?
Not really. It's very much skirts around the edges of it, which I think is... It doesn't tell you anything really about plot. It's more of a kind of a moratorium of the actors and the mood in fandom at the time, and the mood of the show and where it was at. I mean, we were pivoting at that point.
Yeah.
We didn't know what the future held. Even if it had have gone to series, I don't think anybody really had an idea about a long-term vision of how 2, 3, 4, 5 years would map out.
Yeah.
You know, you look at it today, I'm sure Russell's got the third season, the fourth season, or themes and ideas around that mapped out. 96, you know, we don't know if this backdoor pilot has been commissioned for a series. We don't know if it's going on. And naturally, touching upon what you said, it's a very funereal atmosphere, you know.
Yeah.
And Silver's got mixed emotions.
Yeah.
And you can see he's quite overcome at some points.
It doesn't feel like the birth of a new series. It's very much like a postscript, or like
it's an epilogue, isn't it, to the classic series? Yeah.
I mean, it'd be interesting to dig into some of the other press that they did around the time to see whether it all has that or whether BBV gets that because they're...
I remember reading an article that said that you could split the Wilderness years to pre and post TV movie.
Yeah.
And post TV movie, the collective ethos and the environment and the atmosphere in fandom and in the public is much more sedate. It's not when is it coming back. It's come back. It didn't work. We've all collectively just accepted that.
Yeah.
And we've accepted that it may well come back again one day, but we're not clamouring for it. We've accepted it as a thing of its time, which I'm sure you've gone across in beautifully in your book, which I thoroughly recommend anybody to read. But it's a different temperament to post 96, and I think that's reflected in.
This is the turning point.
This is literally here.
The,
Sylvester's trailer had the turning point.
How does McGann come across?
Scared.
Yeah.
Scared, terrified, and I think at this point, what I get from Paul is that, and the Doctor for me, and I think I've touched upon this before we started recording, the Doctor for me is a part like Hamlet, or is a part like Bond, and we've had many people play it. We've had men, we've had women, we'll have plenty more of both in the future. I'm absolutely certain of that.
Yeah.
But each of those actors wants to strike their own note, put their own stamp, put their own take on it, and rightly so. And I think at this point, Paul's trying to find what would define his Doctor.
Yeah.
So, like you said, he's trying a lot of things. He's going a lot of places. He's trying different things. He's looking for different takes on the character. What is going to define his Doctor? And I think it helps in that respect that he's got Sylv there and that he knows Sylv. And Sylv's gently kind of indoctrinating him into Who 101, you know, smoothing out the rough edges.
Yeah. It's this interesting thing of that audition tape is what, nearly 2 years before this?
Yes.
So it's been a long old road for him, and I'm not sure he was sat around exactly going, well, when they're going to call back. He probably forgot about it, but it's a fairly long old road between him auditioning and getting cast. And what's interesting about that little audition tape as well is you see almost the moment he finds the TV movie Doctor, when whoever's cast at the audition is going, more excited.
I think I can.
Yeah.
I think I can.
Yeah.
And you literally see that Doctor being birthed.
Yeah.
You know, and you can see Paul taking, like any amazing actor, and I think we underestimate just how in demand Paul McGann was in 1996. You know, this is a man who had started with Catherine Zeta-Jones. This is a man who had done Alien Tree. This is a man who'd been Marwood. This is a man who had literally just come off of Chris Ryan, the one that got away, and come straight from that onto Doctor Who.
Yeah. He was
in demand, seriously in demand. He was a matinee idol.
Yeah. I mean, I know people talk now about like he's perhaps not a big enough draw for a spin-off or to be the Doctor in Day of the Doctor or something like that. But back then, he was absolutely a face to be.
He was a name and a face to be reckoned with. You know, he carried tremendous weight and gravitas for that part.
And
you know,
but as you say, you can tell he doesn't know what
he's trying to search for. I mean, there's a lot of adjectives in fandom that get overused, doctorish quality, you know. But I think, like anything, to these guys, it's an acting part. And it's an acting part that comes with now 6 decades worth. I mean, God forbid what poor old Shooty had to go through. You know, he's sat there on the set of Sex Education. Yeah. You know, in its last season, enjoying the critical and kind of public love from that. And somebody goes, here's 26 target novelizations.
The thing that Shooty has and that all future Doctors will have, and this is also the changing nature of viewing, is he'll be able to go on YouTube and watch 10 minutes of each Doctor, their best moments, and go, okay, and feel like he knows their character without having to have sat through the whole of season 15.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, Shooty Gatwa is an amazing actor, and I go back to, you know, the stuff he did in Sex Ed was phenomenal, and it changed a lot of kind of rules in regarding about representation in teenage drama series and how that have had a cross-market appeal. He's fantastic in everything he does. Yeah. He steals Barbie, and he's got about 7 lines in it.
Yeah.
But the moment his Doctor clicked for me, and you'll chuckle at this. In the giggle at the end, he has to deliver a speech, Dylan, for 5 minutes talking. And now we're going on saying, you know what, we're going to have a fresh reboot. This is Disney money. It's a fresh start. We're good. We're all good. And he fucking starts talking about Mavic Chen. And you're sitting there going, but he does it with such absolute platinum, 100-carat gold conviction that you believe it.
Yeah.
You believe that man was once William Hartnell shouting at a Terranium core.
Yeah.
You believe it. And that's the mark of a good actor.
As much as I wanted the TV movie to succeed, I feel like watching this and jumping back to it now, I'm wondering whether I was convinced that Paul McGann was the right choice. I mean, he was.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering whether you could be forgiven for watching this video if it was your first exposure to, which it must have been for some people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And going, oh, I'm not sure this guy is the mad eccentric, the typical.
Yeah, I think Paul had a lot of preconceptions.
Yeah.
About what that character was.
Yeah.
He's looked at pictures of the previous 7 incumbents and says, well, I'm not going to wear any question marks. Where's my question marks? Yeah. I can't see any. And somebody said, no, Paul, they're on the bottom of your shoe. Your Nike Air is a question mark footprint. And he's looking at it thinking, well, he's done the Monocle Mutineer. He's just come off Chris Ryan.
Yeah. And
somebody's saying, I want you to talk enthusiastically about Article 17 of the Celestial Intervention Agency. And he's like, the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
And you can see that indecision reflected upon his, and it's not a negative thing. It's an actor coming to grips with how they're going to play a part, and he does it wonderfully.
Yeah. But we're just not often exposed to that.
No, and it would never happen in today's world, ever. We're at a different point now, and it's almost like you're peeking behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. Yeah. You're seeing things that weren't to be seen.
I love how game Sylvester McCoy was for this sort of shit as well, though, that he just went, yeah, sure, I'll take a video camera and Mark Gatiss.
I think Sylva's got such chutzpah for that. I think that's brilliant. You can just imagine him getting a phone call. You want me to fly me out to Vancouver for 2 or 3 weeks in the middle of January with my hat to shoot me in an alley and have me lay on a table and have Daphne Ashbrook in a ball gown offering me. Shit, I'm there. I'm there. I'll do it.
I mean, it's quite interesting. He says in there, they sent me a version of the script, I was in it a little bit, then they sent me a version that I was in a lot.
Yeah, and then it was back to being not in it again.
And I don't quite know what that version is where he's in it a lot is.
Well, maybe more exposition and lots more time with the TARDIS tool cabinet.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he was the voiceover was a late addition in post, wasn't it? So
wasn't the original voiceover was Gordon Tipple's master.
And that exists. That's on YouTube if you want to find it.
God bless Gordon Tipple.
I know.
He's been erased. Tipple erasure.
I know. Where is he now? And can we... was it you that told me he lives in the middle of nowhere?
I remember I did a bit of... So the coronavirus was a very strange time for all of us. So I went on a bit of a Tipple excursion deep dive. And there was a DWM interview, which I think was the 20th anniversary of the TV movie.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was a Ben Cook article or an Emily Cook article, but it was superb. They tracked down Gordon Tipple, and he basically... And you can... Oh, it's amazing. It's an amazing article. And you can sense the confusion seeping out through the printed page. This man is like... I didn't speak. You saw my eyes. And I got shot at by Jeffrey Sachs on helium. I wasn't there, but I got paid very handsomely for it. God bless Gordon Tipple. Yeah. Where is he now?
What a guy.
He's probably living his best life in a Vancouver cabin chopping wood.
He's never done a convention, that's for
No. Convention organisers, please get Gordon Tipple. Me and Dylan will pay for a dual photo shoot. Dylan will bring his own contact lenses.
What would you say about the production? Because we said it's shot on videotape. Is it a good production, this video?
I think the nature of it, that it's kind of almost has this home video quality, it lends itself so that you could never get away with this in any other form of medium.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that it has that very lo-fi, almost kind of, I've shot this in my backyard type look to it, it lends itself to that because it feels intimate. And without getting a bit meta, I almost think that if you had had it higher production quality, maybe you wouldn't have had the raw admissions that you did have.
Yeah.
People feel a lot more comfortable with just a small little,
There's a very interesting interview with Daphne Ashbrook where it's like right in her face. And I'm wondering why...
That wouldn't survive well in high def.
No, but I'm wondering whether that was the bit where they were like, we can't show that outfit because maybe McCoy's outfit was in all the promo by
Yeah,
that point.
yeah.
But
I think that she was the new element, wasn't she? Whereas kind of we all had a kind of collective idea of what Sylv was going to look like and what he was going to do. And,
but you don't get McGann in costume in this.
No,
either.
no. And McGann's got strictly his Chris Ryan haircut on throughout, you know. So no, they're very careful, and it's more reflective. It's a mood piece, really. It's a chamber piece about Sylv coming to tips with where he is in his life at this point and letting go of something.
And it's also, as you say, Sylv at this point, he's the man that killed Doctor Who almost,
and he's shaking that burden off.
Yeah. And also, he hasn't had the record, like the thing that his career has had, the resurrection. You know, obviously, he went on to do The Hobbit, but it's not just that. He's been in lots of things. You know, he's in a movie with Maisie Williams. He's in that Rob Zombie film.
He's been on stage with Sir Ian.
Yeah. So
Lord McKellen himself.
So his career got like another boost.
Yeah, he got another renaissance.
But at this point, he's very much, I think, known in England, for the people that do know him, as the guy who killed off Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So
and that's got to be a burden to wear on anybody.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's interesting how we look at it. Diving back to Bond contemporaneously at this time, you know, Timothy Dalton had the same thing.
Yeah.
And we just had Goldeneye, so you know, you could imagine how relieved Timothy Dalton was when that was a success.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there thinking, right, lovely, I can do another series of that. Marvellous. Penny Dreadful, where are you?
Absolutely. Is there much more you want to say on this?
I would say it's utterly emblematic of the time. If you want a kind of an idea about what it was like in the mid-1990s in the wilderness, just in terms of how uncertain everything was, and where it's a great photographic Polaroid of where Doctor Who was at this point in its history. And I urge you to seek it out before Bill discovers the cutscenes at the bottom of his drawer. There you go.
So this one, I feel like we can rate in the way that we haven't rated the others. So is it a clanger, a banger, or an average meander?
I'm so... you know what? It will from emotional, nostalgic, it's a banger for me. But I would certainly say it's an average meander through the streets of Vancouver.
Yeah, I would say it's a banger nostalgically. But I can imagine coming to this now, somebody who's had years and years of seeing Paul McGann and Sylvester McCoy interviewed, they would be like,
I wouldn't advise watching this after you've dealt with Devil's Cord on Disney Plus, because you might be disappointed.
There's no Doctor Who Unleashed vibes of it. There's no Snow
Stephen
Patrol.
Powell was nowhere near Mark Gatiss' camcorder at this point.
No Snow Patrol montages or anything like that.
Too hot for TV.
So there was one other thing that happened in April of 1996.
See, now we've got to the meat of the exercise. What's it all about, Alfie?
On the 21st of April, no less, which was a special episode of Surprise, Surprise was broadcast on ITV. Why the fuck did you want to cover this?
Well, Dylan, I've long resisted doing podcasts because purely I'm just not that interested.
I beg to differ.
Bless you. But I can natter on, as you know, about the wilderness for hours without being tempered or buoyed by various cups of coffee. In April of 1996, an unassuming young lad called David Petty contacted the offices of a ITV show called Surprise, Surprise, hosted by Dame Scylla of the Black herself.
Indeed.
And he requested, or I don't know if it was him or his mother, but he wanted to meet the Doctor. I don't think he specified which Doctor, which is interesting because at the time, as we've said, it was Sylvester McCoy.
Yeah.
But obviously Sylvester McCoy on a Sunday night clearly is not going to bring in the ratings that somebody wants. So out comes Mr. John Pertwee for his residual of the week.
Yeah.
And it's
the current Doctor.
Current Doctor. He is the current Doctor of the 1990s. Literally Ghosts of N-Space, Paradise of Death, and most importantly of all, the introduction to Dimensions in Time on Noel's House Party, where Noel Edmonds, listeners, recycles his entire routine, word for word, that he said to Sylvester McCoy in 1990 on his evening show. It is the same routine, word for word. I believe it may even be a variation on the same shirt.
Yeah, quite possibly.
But John's magical in this. It's John's last appearance as the Doctor. Yeah. I think it aired about 4 weeks before he passed away.
Yeah.
It's available on YouTube, and as a lovely little postscript to it, there's actually, if you search out the Vite video, I can't remember off the top of my head which one it was. I'm sure Dylan will let you know in the show notes. But there is actually a comment from the grown-up David Petters, who talks about how wonderful John was with him, how kind John was to him, and how John had actually invited him to his one-man show, I think the following few months' time, to come backstage and meet him, which obviously never happened.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Which never happened. He talks about how he was going to be given, he'd been given a tickets to it, and he was going to go backstage, and John had said, come and meet me afterwards, and we'll chat about it. Never happened.
That's so sad.
Never happened. But he kept the Dalek, so that's good.
Lucky bastard.
Yeah.
And John seems in rude health and on good.
Amazing. He slips effortlessly back into the character with all the aplomb of a velvet cloak. And John was everywhere at the time. And this is the time, and this is a tale for another day. But this is the time that John was in the Vodafone adverts, skulking around warehouses and annoying Kyle MacLachlan.
Well, I think it's that thing of Doctor Who, upon cancellation, does not go away. It actually becomes something we all get quite nostalgic about. And I don't mean you and I.
No,
I mean
the normal
general
people
public,
out there.
and
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
why you've got repeats.
Yeah.
Repeat seasons, it's important to add. Over sort of 92, 91, 92, 93, there was actually more Doctor Who on the BBC than there had been throughout the last 3 or 4 years.
I don't know if I'm wrong here, but I think if we look at it statistically, so you've got Paradise, you've got Ghosts, you've got Demons aired, and you've got the Planet of the Daleks that aired in the November that year. So I think if we looked at it objectively, there's more John on screen than any other Doctor at that point.
Yeah, I think so. And he was showing up, doing the rounds on talk shows. He was doing adverts, as you say. If anybody,
they could never get the bugger out of Aldbourne at all. He was there every year.
And if you needed somebody to come on something, I don't know, like Crank Up Your Granny.
Yeah.
And you wanted someone instantly recognisable.
Granny Cutaway.
Who would emphasise the showbiz element of Doctor Who and the glory years in inverted commas.
Amazing.
Then, I mean, Tom was 2-bit still in Soho at that point. So
Tom was operating in people in medics and just trying to remain sober. That's as we all have been. We've all been there.
The thing that hit me most about the clip when I discovered it again years later, because I remember it going out at the time.
Oh, really? You were there contemporaneously?
I was there.
Wow.
Was, surprise, surprise, I always thought they were in their own home and hidden camera, blah, blah, blah.
They kind of destroyed the magic in that clip, didn't they? Because it's quite blatantly obvious that David sat in a green room there. Yeah.
But they've tried to make it look a bit like someone's home. Yeah. But it is a green room / office. And then, unless the front of his house looks like a fire exit of Television Centre or wherever, then
it's slightly concerning, because if you were going via the undertones there, if they're trying to make that look like someone's front room, then the illusion is that literally just before your mother's about to announce your dinner, you've got John Pertwee come around the door. I am the Doctor. No, really, John, I'm just waiting for me hoops. Just want me beans on toast, man. That certainly never happened for me.
The kid is so excited he can barely get a word out. And Pertwee effortlessly handles him. He doesn't belittle him or anything like that. He's used to getting excited fanboys come up to him, but this is a fanboy. And that kid will never forget that moment.
And the ages, if you look at the age, if you look at the age the little lad was at the time, I would imagine that he probably was part of Generation Alan.
Yeah.
He was probably brought in by the one of us, join the cult.
I have to say, as a kid, I fucking hated that cunt.
Oh, did you?
Because he got to meet John Pertwee.
He got a Dalek, He got everything that we wanted.
There's an interesting thing that if you see any interview with John Pertwee, he will say how much he hated the Daleks, but because the kid asks him, he goes, "It's the Daleks, they're my favourite."
Of course,
and it's that's
he holds the magic for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that was one of John's greatest strengths, is that John understood that as much as it's a role, and we've touched upon this talking about Sylv and Paul, as much as it's a role, there's something about it. There's an indefinable magic that defines that role, that just captures childhood in essence, and that's why we all have our favourites. We shouldn't have favourites, but we all do, because it just intrinsically connects us with who we were and what we wanted to perceive ourselves as children. And John gets that.
Absolutely.
He puts his cloak around that kid like a mother hen, and he's on it. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's given that child something they're going to remember for the rest of their life.
What's the theme tune that they play? Like they play the Doctor Who theme tune. Is it a live band in the audience?
Yeah, I think it's a brass band. It's certainly not Kef.
Yeah.
Kef's God
gone.
knows where Kef is at this point.
But it's not a version I recognise. So
No.
it might even be.
It's like a Wogan version.
Because I think she used to sing on there as well, didn't she?
Well,
So she may have had a
Dylan, I'm not
band.
going to reenact it, but that closing theme tune lives with me
Yeah,
to
it's
this
burnt
day.
in. And if you're a child of the 90s, it's
Yeah.
burnt into your brains. I have another memory, and I can't remember it's surprise, or something different, of somebody going on one of... it was either that or something with Noel Edmonds, and a kid being given loads of Doctor Who merch.
Oh, God.
Loads of
Okay.
videos and Dapol toys
Yeah,
and
yeah,
things like that, and me being even more jealous of that guy.
Oh, really?
And I listeners out there, if you can remember what this is...
Yeah, please write in and tell Dylan.
Yeah,
because I'd like to know as well.
And he was another cunt.
Yeah.
The
Bastards. One got a Dalek and saw John for the last time. The other got half a fucking Target library.
Also, David, if you're listening, I don't actually think you're a cunt. I was just an angry child.
We love you, David.
Yeah, we love you.
We,
Come on the
we're
podcast.
jealous of you, but we love you, and we want you to do a 2-part interview with Dylan. So please write in.
Exactly.
We love you.
Much more to say on this?
Again, I think it encapsulates it. I mean, like I said, John's a great doctor. He's not, I'm going to be brutally honest, he's not at the top of my list of doctors.
Mine either.
But he understood what that role was. He understood how important that role was for children, and he understood the magic that was attached to that role. And I think as a postscript to his life and his work on the show, I think it encapsulates everything that was magical about the man.
Yeah.
Everything that was magical about John Pertwee. God bless him. Rest in peace, John.
Yeah.
Sorely missed, sir.
What a guy.
Sorely missed.
Too hot for TV.
Next time, I'll be joined by Mikey Smith, and we'll be looking at 3 Sixth Doctor stories featuring Jamie and Zoe. First up, it's City of Spires. Then, it's The Wreck of the Titan. And finally, it's Legend of the Cybermen. And if you've never heard any of these stories before, this is one of the few times I'll say to you, please listen to them before you listen to the podcast, because you will not want to miss the twists and turns in those stories.
Too hot for TV.
Well, we've come to the end of
Well,
our journey through
I feel like you should be giving me a cigar and a toweling robe.
We've had a wonderful stroll through some of the more avant-garde parts of the wilderness era. So it just remains for me to ask if you want to point anybody your way on the internet.
Yeah, you can find me on the gram, I believe as the youngsters say, called Artfully Liam. That's all in one word. Artfully as in thankfully, Liam as in the lesser spotted Gallagher. You can find me there, and I post, I'm quite dull, I just post mostly signed bits of artwork and various sketches that I'm working on. There's a general bias towards Doctor Who content. So yeah, by the time this goes out, I probably will have a reduced presence on Twitter, purely because I'm getting too old to debate the nuances of how many extras there were in the Savages.
Really?
Yeah. There's, I've got a garden to run, and I suspect I might have a hernia. So, but not in that order. But but thank you very much, Dylan. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm happy to come back to discuss the monsters of Ness. As the foremost, and nobody can argue with this, David Burton stan in the Who community.
Well, until next time, I've been Dylan.
And I've been Liam.
And this has been Doctor Who Too Hot for TV. Power up the crystals, Cardinal.
Let's go, Barusa.
Too hot for TV.